This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Every week, there's something that you want to see from the Cleveland Browns. There's a mission that you want to see the Browns accomplish. In week one, we want to see where the Browns were, get a baseline of where they were offensively and defensively. In week two, we wanted to see definitive improvement from the offense. And in week three, I think we want to take that improvement and see points. See, I mentioned this in a video I did earlier about Deshaun Watson and what next steps for Deshaun Watson look like. And I stand by it. Right? You want to see Deshaun Watson start to make strides to make you believe that he could be great again, right? Like that's what you want out of Deshaun Watson. I think we've been stuck in so many different ranges of expectations for Deshaun Watson and having our expectations reset with him that we kind of forgot that we expect him to be great at some point, right? The same can be said about this offense. The Browns offense is not cheap. The Browns offense is not a frugally built machine that's supposed to put up a meager amount of points. The Browns have one of the most expensive offenses in football. The Browns have one of the most expensive offensive lines in football. The Browns are paying a ton of money at wide receiver. They're paying a ton of money at tight end. They're paying a ton of money at quarterback. They're paying a ton of money at running back. They're paying a ton of money across the board. And with that, you expect an offense that's going to be more than serviceable, but an offense that, dare I might be as bold as to ask, actually be great. Like that's kind of what you want from this Cleveland Browns team. This is a team and a roster that we hoped could have Super Bowl expectations this season. And offensively, we're still trying to get to the points where this Browns offense is good. Another thing I mentioned in that video earlier today, make sure you check it out, is that the Browns have been having to kick it offensively like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Winning time of possession, moving the ball very slowly. And as much as we had fun making fun of the Steelers quarterback situation and talking about how it's similar to old quarterback situations we had to have, we have to understand that when the Browns feel like if we feel like the Browns should be at a better place than that, we shouldn't be having to win games in the same exact way. Which brings me to the mission plan for this week, which is the Browns got to score some damn points. Okay, they got to get out the teens. They got to get to the 20-plus range in points this week. And you want to see them score multiple touchdowns this week because so far they've scored 3 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was in super duper garbage time versus the Cowboys, so it doesn't really count, but they've only scored 3 touchdowns this season, which puts them tied at like 17th in the NFL. And that is, I think, the main mission for this week. If you're wondering why the Browns haven't been able to score points, there's a number of reasons. I think penalties are the reason that kind of jump out the most to a lot of people. The Browns lead the NFL with 25 penalties on offense. Ironically enough, the other teams that have had penalties on offense are the other AFC North teams, the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it makes you question, just a quick sidebar, it makes you question if the conventional wisdom of penalties being a reflection of your coaching is really true. Because you look at those coaches at the top. John Harbaugh, Super Bowl winner, Coach of the Year winner. Mike Tomlin, one of the most respected coaches in all football, if not the most active, respected coach outside of Andy Reid, maybe. Super Bowl winner, Coach of the Year winner. Kevin Stefanski, 2-time Coach of the Year winner. These guys are good coaches, right? There's going to be people who always say the other, but these guys are definitively great. Like coaches that if they got fired would get hired by somebody tomorrow. Like somebody would lose their job because John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin or Kevin Stefanski hit the market. These are good coaches. Like I'm telling you this right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars would fire Doug Peterson right now to hire Mike Tomlin, to hire John Harbaugh, to hire Kevin Stefanski because they aren't well coached. So that brings me back to the point of like, is this a coaching thing when these three teams lead the league. Honestly, I think it's more of something that's going to figure itself out. Like, yeah, the Browns have a ton of penalties right now, but it'll figure itself out. The Browns aren't going to lead the league in penalties at the end of the year, nor are the Steelers or the Ravens. I think they'll figure it out by the end of the year, and it'll balance itself out. Just because that's kind of how penalties work. I know it's easy to fixate on them, but I don't think the penalties are going to be the big problem for the Cleveland Browns. I tend to look at more structural things that are the issue. Right now, one of the structural things that have been an issue with the Cleveland Browns offense is that they've still been dink and dunk. And while it's nice that the Browns are capable of that classic Kevin Stefanski 12-play touchdown drive, that can't be the only way that the Browns are capable of putting up points. The Browns have not created a lot of explosive plays. I can count on like my fingers how many explosive plays they created, right? The 1-2 passes to Jerry Jeudy out of structure, and then the true drop balls by Amari Cooper that everybody has talked about have probably been the only 4 explosive plays of the entire season. And again, this is an offense that is trying to be more explosive. This is an offense that has a lot of money invested in being explosive. You should be more explosive than this. But right now, the Browns are this dink and dunk machine on offense. They average 3.9 yards per play. That's 30th in the NFL. If you look at their expected points total, that's about negative 19.54, which is pretty bad. But keep in mind, a lot of that is from week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. If you just take it from week 2, the Browns passing expected points above average is about 0.89. So the Browns are just kind of like, they're taking what's there, right? If the defense gives you points, the Browns will take those points. If the defense allows you to get downfield, the Browns will get downfield. But the issue right now is that the Browns aren't creating explosive. They're not creating plays and opportunities to get downfield. It's just heavily reliant on the defensive unit they're playing, which is a problem for them, right? You should be more explosive. You should be able to create points at will if you're this Cleveland Browns team, especially with the amount of money that you're spending to be good on offense. And again, being neutral in week 2 is a positive step, and a step I'll take after whatever they look like in week 1 was however they look like in week 1. So don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying week 2 was bad. Week 2 makes sense in the context of the year, but obviously you want to have performances this season that leave week 2 in the dust, both from a quarterback perspective and an offensive perspective, right? Having a game be one of your best offensive performances when you only score 1 touchdown, that ain't going to fly for the rest of the season. So that's what you want to see in week 3. You want to see the Browns score points against the New York Giants, touchdowns against the New York Giants. The Browns have the 7th most plays from scrimmage of any team in the NFL. 7th highest. That's because their defense forces a lot of 3 and outs and gets them the ball back at a high clip. So they get a lot of opportunities on offense. But despite that, the Browns are in the bottom third of the NFL in first downs, in passing yards, in points, in score percentage. And keep in mind, this is while the Browns are being helped the second most in the NFL by penalties. The Browns have 5 first downs accumulated because of penalties from the defense. They've benefited from penalties as much as they've created their own penalties. They've benefited from penalties. They've moved the ball downfield. They kept drives alive because of penalties. Had 5 of them, second most in the NFL. And they're still in the bottom third of these numbers. I'm not saying this to be alarmist. I'm not saying this to be doom and gloom and say, oh, the Browns offense is cooked. There's nothing they can do about it. They stink. I'm saying this to provide a baseline of why I think the Browns offense definitely needs to get better sooner than later, because what they're putting out there, while it was good enough to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, is not good enough to reach the expectations that they should have for this offense. Again, a step in the right direction does not mean you stop walking. Sometimes we hear a step in the right direction, we just stop walking. Like, how many times does that happen in your life where somebody tells you or you tell somebody, hey, man, that was a step in the right direction. Keep doing stuff like that. And they do that thing the one time, they never do it again. They never make another step. We say step in the right direction a lot, but we never really know what it means to follow through on that. A step in the right direction doesn't mean take one step, tap yourself, pat yourself on the back, and stop walking. That's not what a step in the right direction should indicate. A step in the right direction should mean you should keep walking in that direction or running in that direction. And with the Browns offense, you need them to run in this direction, right? The run game has been positive for the Cleveland Browns. It's been one area where they've been able to bring in points here. I expect them to lean on that more and more as they get more comfortable with the ideal of Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford carrying the load for them as a rushing attack before Nick Chubb gets back. With Deshaun Watson, you need him to push the ball downfield. But honestly, it's not all on Deshaun Watson. You need Amari Cooper to play much better football than he's playing, because him not being able to create explosives downfield and capitalize on explosives downfield in the first 2 weeks is a big part of why the Browns haven't been able to put up the amount of points you would hope that they could put up against a lot of different looks that you have seen them go against, right? Amari Cooper is a big part of the Browns being able to be vertical. Obviously, missing David Njoku erases a lot of explosive plays that you would have had if David was in there. David created a big explosive play versus the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, he got injured on that same explosive play. So yeah, you're missing something with David Njoku, and you need Amari Cooper to compensate. And right now, Amari Cooper's not even at the point to where he's compensating or even close to compensating. We're having to compensate with Jerry Jeudy what we're not getting from Amari Cooper and what we're not getting because of injury because of David Njoku. The explosive plays need to happen, and that means Amari Cooper needs to step up. Now, there's a lot of theories on why Amari Cooper isn't playing well, right? Some people think he's mad about a trade request. Some people think he's cooked. Some people think he's playing himself into shape. It might just be Amari Cooper having his usual 2 bad games. I talked about this in the rewatch. There's always a couple of games every year that Amari Cooper's been a Cleveland Brown where he just does not play well for whatever reason. You go back to his first year in Cleveland. Remember when Deshaun Watson came back and he played versus the Saints, and Amari Cooper couldn't catch a cold that day for whatever reason. We blamed it on the cold, but we've seen Amari Cooper since then catching a cold, so I don't think it was the cold. And then when DTR was out there, you pick a game when Amari Cooper and DTR shared the field at the same time, Amari Cooper wasn't catching shit, right? So it might just be that. It might just be Amari Cooper's having his bad couple games early this year, and he'll be fine. And if that's the case, he should be better versus New York. But this offense really does need Amari Cooper to step it up into gear. And start being a explosive downfield threat, because without David Njoku, Amari Cooper is your main guy to push the ball downfield. And if you can't get that from Amari Cooper, I don't know who you're going to get it from, because Jerry Jeudy is capable of doing it sometimes, but not all the time. You're not going to lean on him to do it all the time. Same thing's true for Elijah Moore. And then outside of that, I don't know what we just going to throw Cedric Tillman in there. He ain't create that many explosive plays yet. So it's a tough spot to be in. And you want those explosive plays, and you want to start creating them. The Browns have a score percentage of 30.4. That needs to improve. That ranks 24th in the NFL. Now, again, a lot of that comes from week 1 in Dallas. Last week, they were at 44%, which is honestly pretty fine. 44% above league average. And that's where they were. Only 3 touchdowns, though, in 2 weeks, which is a bit concerning. It's 17th in the NFL. And with as much as the Browns get the ball, you want to see them score more touchdowns than that. And the thing that I find weird about this, it's not the Browns holding themselves back from scoring once they get in the red zone. The Browns have had 4 red zone trips. They've had 3 touchdowns in those 4 trips. They have shown themselves to be a pretty decent scoring offense once they get into the red zone. The issue is just getting to the red zone, right? Sustaining those drives, staying away from those penalties, not getting a drop play that would have moved you downfield and kept the momentum going on a drive. It's small stuff like that they need to clean up. And then there's big stuff like Amari Cooper playing well that also needs to be cleaned up. So again, the offense, much like Deshaun Watson, we discussed, took a step in the right direction, but a step in the right direction doesn't mean you stop walking. Got to keep walking. Sometimes got to keep running. And that's what the Browns need to do. They need to take steps, plural, in the right direction. That's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.